Hey, Nerf Herder, I'm Addy Thomas.
I'm Ben Milton.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Certain Point of View. Today, we've got a special guest, and we've got Case with us as well to introduce us to our guest. But before we get there, I just want to remind you that you can go to our website, certainpov.com, and check out all of the podcasts that are part of the Certain Point of View family. Not only do we have this Star Wars podcast, but we've also got Another Pass with our very own Case Aiken, who revisits movies, and whether they're good or bad, and rewrites them up a little bit. Then we also have Fun and Games with Matt and Jeff, as they have very thoughtful adventures into the world of gaming and into that industry and that part of life that's growing, especially for us nerds. And then, of course, we also have Matt Storm of Fun and Games with Matt and Jeff, who is joined by MJ Bradley as they go through the moral quandaries of the Mass Effect universe, and they play through and just kind of ponder their decisions and their choices. You can check out all of those podcasts, including the Scruffy Nerf Herders, our Star Wars D20 crazy adventure-filled podcast as well. So we've got all of those, again, on our website at certainpov.com. Before we get to our interview, want to go over one piece of Star Wars news and our review of the latest episode of Star Wars Resistance. So one major piece of news is that John Williams is going to be scoring the music for Galaxy's Edge, which is the Star Wars addition to Disney World and to Disneyland. So he's creating a so we thought his last Star Wars score was going to be Episode 9. He's going to have 10 Star Wars scores, because now he's going to also have the one for the amusement park as well.
I am so excited for this amusement park.
Right?
I haven't been this excited about amusement park since I was a teenager.
I've never in my life been this excited for an amusement park.
Right.
Yeah. Because I was never an amusement park kid. Like, that was never that was just never really a thing that
Right.
I went to. Like,
Right.
It was just too much money
Right.
for, like, how much time you actually, like, money per time of enjoyment, like, economically, like, from an immigrant family, we're like, the math doesn't add up on this.
You guys are doing algebraic equations.
Well, like, it just
fun versus dollar amount.
we were in the red when it came to the fun. So
I get it. We lived right in between two major parks where I grew up in Pennsylvania. We lived right in between, like exactly in between Dorney Park and Hershey Park.
Yeah.
And we would go to both of them once or twice a year.
Yeah.
So, like once a month, at least once a month you got to go to a park. And then when I was a teenager, to have my own driver's license, me and my best friend at the time got like summer passes to Dorney Park.
Nice.
And they had opened up like a big water park there, like brand new at that time. And we spent all summer there. It was great. And I always loved it. Like, I always loved going to parks, and I wish I still did. I had a couple experiences that ruined it for me. Like, I swore I would never go back to Disney.
Yeah.
Because of some of these experiences, because I had such a good time.
Yeah.
Because you know this story, right? Like, when I worked in radio, I was a music director.
Yeah.
And we had like a big conference for all the radio stations down in Disney.
That's the only time I've ever been to Disney, was on one of those
that's
trips.
right. You and I went, right?
Yeah.
We had the best time.
We had an amazing time.
We had an amazing time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had much better times without you.
No, I'm sure. You had, I mean, like,
it wasn't you.
I know, I've heard. You told me a few.
And it wasn't you. It wasn't you that ruined it. I wish that you had been able to experience this with me. It was great because a couple times, actually, they paid for me to have like the personal escort through Disney with a Disney employee.
Right.
So you go through like all the back alleys and back lots, and you go right to the front of the line, and they stop everybody, and then you get on next.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then you go enjoy the ride, and everybody's like, "Who the hell is this guy?"
Yeah.
Like, that's how I've experienced Disney the last like 3 times I've been there.
Not to get into too much depth with this. Did you ever go through the business that we were both a part of at one point?
Yeah.
Did you ever go to Disney through that?
Yeah.
How was that compared to your Christian music?
It was a lot like when you and I went.
Okay.
Where everything was free and open,
Right.
and you could just go and do.
Yeah, and the lines weren't particularly long.
Right, because they closed down the park a little bit earlier, and you hang out at the end,
Okay,
and
so
it's
that's
not
pretty
as full.
awesome.
It's very
Yeah.
nice. It's very nice. It's
Yeah.
very cool. It's a wonderful experience, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
that personal touch of just like, hey, you know what? I feel like going to Pirates of the Caribbean. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let's go. How do you feel about Space Mountain? Yeah, let's go. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. You want to go again? Yeah, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
And you just walk right in. Like, there is no line. There is no waiting. It is the Fast Pass is fantastic. The Fast Pass system at Disney is fantastic. I love it, but it's garbage compared to. And I think I looked it up one time, and it's thousands of dollars to get that treatment.
Of course,
like
yeah.
it's ridiculous. But I've always, like, after that happened, I was like, I will never go back to Disney because of that. There's no way I'm going to subject myself to standing in line for Space Mountain after this experience and going with famous people. And so, but then they were like, oh no, Star Wars is building something, and now John Williams is doing the
score to
it.
I mean,
like,
the description. Forget John Williams. The description of this park looks so exciting. Like the way, I guess I think with one hotel in particular, you can get like a character name assigned to you, and like story will happen to you there. Like all sorts of crazy stuff.
Oh my goodness, that sounds so amazing.
And but then like you add that you've got the music, which is such an integral part of this franchise and of this universe, that like that's just gonna add to the immersion. Like you're just gonna have those. Like, can you imagine having those moments where you're just gonna stand out on a ridge looking at two suns, and you just got the music going?
Stop! I can't. It's like the tallest structure in the park too.
Yeah.
Like it's massive. They said they've never built anything this big in the park before.
It's so crazy.
It's incredible. And I mean, I did the Star Wars rides that they have now. I've been to the little Star Wars area that they have now.
Yeah.
And it's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool, that little VR thing that you do, and you know, and it's fun.
What's going to be interesting is, first off, like, we got to wait a little bit of time for stuff to cool off. Maybe. I don't know if I want to go, like, try to get in
Here's
right
the
when
thing.
it opens.
Like, the crowds at Disney are always bad no matter when.
That's true.
It never goes away. Like, there is no, like, well, we'll just wait a few years and then... No.
Well, yeah, we can't do years, obviously.
No. Yeah, we're obviously not going opening weekend.
Yeah.
But you're not going to be like, well, if I just wait 6 months, it'll die. No. Because it's Disney, man. People are... I mean, that park is packed no matter when.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
There is no good time to go.
It'll be interesting to see when we can go experience it, because we're going to have to do it.
Right. And the thing is, like, I got to go without my kids.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
It's going to be hard.
That's going to be a tough sell.
It is going to be a really, really hard sell.
Well, may the force be with you on that one.
Yeah, Jenny is not going to be pleased, but it's got to be done. Like, I don't know how we can avoid it.
We'll definitely talk more about the amusement park as time goes on and as we get more updates about Galaxy's Edge. Let's move on to the latest episode, Star Wars Resistance, Synara's score.
Yeah.
So we've got a little carryover in terms of the story from the last episode where they rescued Synara from a ship that was in distress and that was overrun by Kowakian monkey lizards, particularly a steroid, like really buff Kowakian monkey lizard.
It's the Rock of
yeah, exactly.
Monkey lizards.
I'd watch a lot of movies with him. With him too.
With the Rock or the monkey lizard?
With the monkey lizard
with
too.
Both.
I mean, the Rock is amazing
as a monkey lizard. I mean, as long as the CG is better than it was in what was the one where he did with the sand and the Mummy?
Oh, the Mummy. Yeah, that's an early one for him. Yeah, or Scorpion King.
Scorpion King was so bad that CG was awful.
Yeah, that was an early entry. I mean, like he's had Rampage, and like CG looks actually pretty amazing for that, for as trashy as that movie is.
But they didn't CG him, did they?
I'm sure they had to CG some of him. Not the way they had to with Scorpion King.
Yeah, the Scorpion King CG.
There's plenty of scenes where there had to be a CG Rock. let me put it that way.
Okay.
But yeah, coming back to Resistance. So Synara it turns out is a pirate who was actually waiting there for her crew to rescue her. But now she is, and these are the same group of pirates that have been attacking the Colossus, and now she's on the inside there, so they have an inside man to help with their attacks and raids on the Colossus, which, going back to previous episodes, we know are funded by the First Order in order to pressure the leader of the platform, Commander Doza, into accepting First Order help for supplies and to help run it. Basically, to be taken over as a post by the First Order. So we're not exactly sure what significance the platform has, other than maybe, well, not
It
necessarily
obviously has
resources.
some sort of tactical, advantage. For
Exactly. So, so outside of that, we also know that Kaz is our spy, trying to find out what the First Order is up to and who the First Order spy is at this location. We learn in this episode that there's some automated turrets that need targeting computers, and Jaeger, who Kaz works for, is commissioned by Commander Doza to fix them as soon as possible because he needs to send the aces out on a mission, and they won't be there to protect. It turns out in the course of the story, as Kaz and Tam try to get some help from Synara to get some equipment, it turns out they reveal just enough information to her, and because they trust her, that she's able to inform her pirates that
the base is defenseless.
Exactly. So literally at the moment that it's defenseless, they're able to attack, and we have a pretty awesome battle there. Just fighting off with pirates. We've got Jaeger, we've got Kaz, we have Tam trying to rescue Synara.
We have Trandoshans.
They're
so dope too.
Oh my god. But essentially, Synara learns. Well, Tam rescues Synara, which she doesn't quite expect and seems a little bit touched by. But obviously, she's a traitor, so we'll see if there's something more to this character. But ultimately, what ends up happening at the end of this episode is Commander Doza decides to give in to the First Order and is going to meet with them in order to accept their aid so that they do not have to worry about protection any longer. So it looks like the First Order
plan is working.
Exactly. Commander Pyre, who is Captain Phasma's right hand in this particular mission.
And the gold suit. He has the gold suit.
Yes,
right?
He's the one with the golden stormtrooper armor. So he's coming to make a deal. So what are your initial thoughts with this episode?
I liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it was cool to see the platform under attack and the pirates and stuff like that. I liked it. There was nothing that I didn't like about this episode. I thought it was super convenient that as soon as they bring the trader on board, like there's the targeting computer for the guns isn't working, and
yeah.
they kind
of established already.
The place is already in disrepair.
Yeah, and that they sometimes have to power down for because to reserve resources. So that seemed like something that was potentially likely to happen. But yeah, I get the convenience factor, but that's plot convenience at that point.
It was plot convenience.
Yeah.
And
Star
wasn't
Wars is
so bad where I was like, well, okay. It's a TV show. Like, that stuff's going to happen.
Absolutely.
And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I thought it was cool. They've laid the groundwork for what's the trader's name? The pirate's name? The name of the show. The name of the episode. Synara. I can never remember her name. They've laid the groundwork for Synara to have that conflict really nicely of I'm a pirate with a heart of gold kind of thing, and she's building a bond with the team, and that's good. I mean, that'll make for interesting conflict down the road, and whether or not she's going to stay with the pirates and betray them.
And even if she stays with them, maybe a character that they could come back to down the road.
She could be this season or this show's Hot Callus.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about Callus. I was thinking more, especially because of the pirate connection. I was thinking more Hondo.
Hondo?
Where he's a little bit more of a wild card.
Yeah. No, I don't get the feeling that she's much of a wild card.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she's obviously tough and strong, but I don't think she's much of a wild card.
Yeah.
I think she's pretty loyal.
Yeah, it seems like that. Yeah. So we've got that. Of course, Trandoshans.
Trandoshans are so cool.
Oh my god, I love my Trandoshans. If I can't have my Boss spin-off movie, I'll take more Trandoshans in the Star Wars universe.
All the time. They're so much fun.
Yeah, I was already excited to see the ones in a couple episodes back when they attacked the platform.
Yeah.
It's the same Trandoshans, obviously, but to have hand-to-hand fights with them.
Yeah.
And that was sort of a fun. That was a fun fight. There was this as far as the Star Wars fight, yes, there's stuff that's stretched beyond, reality, like the way, like, the computer should have been broken and everything like that, but it ends up working. But I mean, that's such a Star Wars trope at this point. It works within universe for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't bang on a computer to make it work in the Star Wars universe,
you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, and then it's clearly not broke.
Yeah.
And you need to break it so that you can hit it.
Yeah, if you have a problem with that, then you have a problem with the Millennium Falcon.
Right, yeah, so stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good. I'm loving this series so far. They haven't taken any major missteps at all for me. Like it's been exciting and fun.
Well, except for BB-8.
BB-8 can go, man. Like I'm ready any day now for him to disappear from this show.
He wasn't quite as prominent this episode,
which was nice. He had one key place.
Yeah. To trip up that transition.
Yeah. Other than that, he had opinions about
Synara.
Yeah. I don't trust her. Screw you, BB-8. Nobody cares what you think.
So that about wraps it up for the review for Resistance. We are actually going to be going into a segment that we recorded last week where we talked with author Pat Edwards of the book Space Trippin'. But be sure to let us know if you have any thoughts about Resistance or Galaxy's Edge. You can go to our website, Certain POV. Find all our social media right on there at our website, certainpov.com. Case, go ahead and let's go ahead and get started.
All right, yeah. So today we've got Patrick Edwards, who I met at GeeklyCon 2018 this summer. You were hosting a panel on a book that you had published and sort of the experience of publishing, and we got to talking, and I said I'd love to have you on to talk about your experience publishing sci-fi and that whole sort of world.
Is that what we're here? I have all these dice and everything ready to go.
Oh, no, sorry, that's the Nerf herders, sorry.
Oh, no.
Special guest
did you
player.
roll a character? Oh, God.
All right, well, here we go.
All right, well, I guess we're getting that Wookiee.
Oh, is that what you need? No, thank you guys for having me on. Good to see you again. I see you've gotten some winter beard going there, Case, from when I saw it.
Oh, yeah, it's my end of the year beard. I always grow it out.
Yeah.
End of the year beard. I love that.
I'm jealous. I can't do one, so I've tried. It never works.
It's really thin. I actually have to shave my mustache for about a week. Otherwise, people just think I'm growing the mustache out because like the rest of the beard just
doesn't come in.
Not very much.
Doesn't match.
Yeah.
And that's coming in white, which is kind of scary.
Yeah, I got that problem. It doesn't really much like that one-star review of my book. It just never comes together.
Well, let's start there.
Never read the comments. People never read the comments.
I dipped my toe when it first was released. I couldn't help myself, and then
sure.
And with the killer thing is that even if it's overwhelmingly good, even if you've got like 50 reviews and 48 of them are positive, you just zero in like a laser.
Of course.
On the two that are.
That are unnecessarily brutal.
Yeah, I have a folder on my computer of the bad reviews I've gotten for things, just because it's like I just need to have those there to remember them. But like they're. Yeah, like it's just like let's go and masochistically look at this.
Oh no, I'm completely different. I take antidepressants because of those things. Like I'm not interested.
I just
seeing
can't let
that
them
at
go.
all.
So it's like
no, I can't. So let's talk a little bit about the book, man. Like how did you kind of come to write a book?
Well, wait. We should pause.
You want to
I don't think we've actually said the name.
Oh yeah, what is the book?
Yeah. So that's
I was going to get there.
My book is called Space Tripping. In stores now. It's been out for over a year now. But it's I guess there's a lot of different questions in there. How did I come to write a book, or that particular book, or where do you guys want to?
Let's go with this book. Let's go with this particular book. I'm curious about this book. Where did the idea come from of like, hey, this is a story that I have that I want to tell?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people have a lot of ideas, and they have a lot of like, oh, I'd like to write a book about that someday or something like that.
Yeah, like it's November right now. It's National Novel Writing Month. People on Certain Point of View are working on that. I have signed up every year for 10 years. I have never completed one.
Well,
so like it's a big effort. And
okay, so I'm going to call you out real quick here. I still have no response from you. I've in the wake of the GeeklyCon, and I did this panel, and it seemed like there were a lot of writers and aspiring writers that were really interested. I was looking at putting together a small community of call them, writers or aspiring writers, and kind of maybe to be just supportive for each other. If you don't have a group locally that you can work with or get feedback from, Case is in that group, and he wanted to talk. And then I was noticing when I was getting kind of introductory bios from people that one of the most overwhelming, most common things that people were saying is a lot of ideas, a lot of false starts, not seeing as much through. So I kind of challenged everybody in that group to their first sort of assignment was pick a project, and you're going to commit to that project from a writing standpoint. I know you guys have Casey's got his podcasting, but pick one writing project, and you're not going to touch anything else till you actually have a finished something, beginning, middle, and end. So I'm still waiting on Case.
So get back to me on that response. I didn't realize, because everyone else up until that point, everything had been reply alls, and no one replied all.
I had some people get
I was just like, okay, well, I guess
died out.
I guess I'm going to respond when I finish it. But I haven't finished it, so that's why I haven't gotten the reply.
No, but to answer your question, what's really funny that this ended up being the book that got out is that when I started writing it, I had no idea actually what it was going to be, or what I had. A lot of times people have concepts and they have ideas. Oh, here's a concept. Oh, and here's a fun way to end it. And then you got to actually have to do the work to fill it in. I had no idea. I just wrote a couple pages randomly one night. No alcohol was involved, I swear. About a blackout drunk alien who crashed on Earth and started just randomly beating people up. And then I just kept going with it, and then something just kept drawing me back to it. And then it got to a point where I'd written enough of it that I said, hey, I might actually have something. And I definitely had to go back and tweak some things to make it more coherent, more fitting. But it got to a point where, and really something just clicked to me, and not necessarily that, hey, this was going to be the book that's going to launch my writing career or anything like that. It was just, I just happened to be working on it and resolved that this is going to be the thing. I'm actually going to finish this. I'm going to see if I can finish a book, because like I said, we all know people, and a lot of us are those people that have ideas, start stuff, have plenty of 20,000 word, 25% of a book, Microsoft Word documents in our computer in different files. I literally just wanted to see if I could finish a book, beginning, middle, end. And it took me about a year.
That was my next one. How long did it take you to actually finish the project? It was about a year.
Yeah, your first draft, and then I spent another year tweaking, polishing, editing. And that took, it took a little bit longer, I think, because in that time I actually moved, I got married, all that fun stuff too. That took. Oh wow,
that's a lot. That is a big year.
Yeah. Think about that. Try writing a sequel, but now I got 2 little kids too. Yeah, so.
That's my problem. I have 2 kids as well, and I'm like, I have time for kids.
Yeah,
I'm lucky. I'm lucky I get this podcast done on a weekly basis.
Yeah, 2 small humans. They take a lot of work.
They do. They really do. Did you hire an editor? Did you have a friend to edit it? Or
no, actually. So it was really interesting. I had written it. I'd spent a year, working on it. I'd found actually a local group by me that is a group of writers, editors. Some are professional; it's their job. Some are, it's a second job or a hobby. Some are aspiring, and they meet once a week at a bar and they review other work and give feedback. So that was what that year process was. Is I basically was feeding it chapter at a time through that group and getting some feedback on that. And that was a really good skin thickening process, just kind of like getting that, that critique and that feedback. But as it happened, I was finished it, and I was just gearing up to start what for a lot of people is one of the more soul-crushing aspects of getting started, is trying to get like an agent, a literary agent, or get a publishing deal and go to conventions and do pitches and do queries, and you do dozens and dozens and dozens, hoping you get a bite, and most of them you'll never even get a response. I was just kind of getting everything in line to start hammering that process, and then there's this company called Inkshares, and I assume you guys are in podcasting, you're familiar with Nerdist. Nerdist organization was co-hosting a contest at Inkshares. The genre was space opera.
Okay.
And it was, you would basically create kind of like almost like a Kickstarter page for it, with like a synopsis image. You can put video on there if you want to put a couple chapters on it. Essentially, you would create a page for your book, and then it would go up, and they'd have this contest. And the 3 books that earned the most pre-orders over a set period of time got full publishing packages. And so through them, so mine won, and then they had a whole team of editors. I went through 3 rounds of editing, different levels. Graphic designer to design the book cover. Distribution, it's in, through Barnes & Noble. They got me my audiobook deal with Amazon, so it's exclusively on Audible because Amazon bought those rights, using one of their stable of voice actors to put it out there. So yeah.
So when you won that competition with Inkshares and Nerdist, like, did you shit yourself?
Just a little.
I would be so over the moon. I mean,
I was working.
You make it your last name, winner of the contest.
I definitely did one of those super cliche things. I was working in an office job where because the thing ended on, it was like 3 p.m. my time, Eastern time, on like a Thursday or something like that. Was when like official like the rankings and everything, and it would update in real time. And so like that 2:59, and I'm in there, and I was kind of late because the contest had actually started already before when I heard about it. I was like a week behind everybody else, and then it hit, and I got it, and of course I like texted my wife and let her know, and then because she goes, and then I walked down and I went outside, and I definitely did one of those super cliche movie like shouts of
fist
like,
pump things,
yeah.
Freeze frame and everything.
Just jumps in midair, just stands there.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then like because they send you, hey, congratulations, here's your expected like pub date and all that, and I just. Yeah, I was texting. I was like, this is insane. This is insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's got to be the greatest feeling in the world, to have that kind of recognition of putting like a whole year of your life into to write something and create something, and have like everybody who sees it go, yep, that's the one. That's the winner.
Yeah,
right there.
It was phenomenal.
That's amazing.
And I'm lucky. I had a lot of help, support from family and friends, kind of trying to spread the word on their own social medias and just get out there. And there was a lot of really really great people that were awesome in that regard.
So what happens then? So you get the deal. It goes to Amazon. You get it gets published.
Yeah.
What how does that work? Like, what's that process like?
So that process was, the first thing you do is there's 3 rounds of editing. First is called developmental, and that's like the story. Does it suck?
Okay.
So you get paired up, and that's where you kind of have the most personal relationship, because that's very high level stuff, and you're back and forth. They take it, they read it, and they're not necessarily looking for things like grammar or formatting. It's story and characterization, and it will be things like, this scene isn't very clear exactly what is happening. Can you take a pass at this, or is there a way you can make this more clear of what is going on in this scene? Because there's like action sequences are tough, and that's hard because you want it to flow and you want it to be quick, because it's a lot, but at the same time you can't use too many words because that slows down the pace. So those are definitely tough. Things like that, or if it makes sense for a character, there's 1 or 2 times where they caught, it's like, yeah, you already made this joke a couple chapters back. But so that's the first process, and then once that editor is comfortable, it goes on to the proofreader. That's the grammar stuff and all the the little details, and then their job is to basically be devil's advocate and be very nitpicky. They do a little bit of story, but be super nitpicky on every little thing. Like I remember getting really frustrated at that point, and then that's their job. It's literally their job is to be very just try and find anything someone else could pick out, especially the genre that we're all in, because our fans are, because sci-fi
very
fans are
particular,
notoriously very forgiving and easygoing, and they don't nitpick things.
No, never.
Yeah. And then
gravity in space,
space fuel,
and frankly, like, it's impressive that people can do that kind of proofreading, because like it's really easy to be reading a thing and trying to interject your own opinions about the story. But if their job isn't to look at the story, if their job is to look for those those small formatting things, like that's an issue I have when I try to like proofread stuff. If I'm like having issues with the material in play, like then I can't really focus on like, is that a period or an exclamation mark?
Yeah. No, and it's that's a good point you bring up too, and that's one of the hardest things as if you're going to be a writer and you're going to be getting feedback from people, because now people that are professional proofreaders, they're pretty good at it, but it's almost impossible to give critique on anything and not inject a little bit of your own voice and opinion into that.
Right.
And then when you're getting that feedback from someone, one of the hardest learning curves was trying to discern what is objectively a good piece of advice, or that's legitimately that makes it better, and what is that's more your voice, that person's voice, and not yours, and kind of figuring that
And
out.
how much control do you have over that? Like, if the editor says, "Hey, I think this," or whatever, at that point in the proofreading process, and goes, "Hey, I think this," or whatever, and it's not just like, "Oh, you should use a comma here instead of a semicolon," or whatever.
Things like story, in my process, I've heard they were pretty open. They would give suggestions. They were stronger than others, but they were pretty good about it. At the end of the day, it's your story, and I think a lot has to do with what the content is. I'm sure there's people that have had stuff that if they wanted to put it this way, it was kind of my final decision, unless it would have been some kind of like problematic content or something like that. But,
right. Yeah.
So it's one of those things where. And I really loved the editor I worked with. He was great, and he was very, and he would give suggestions. He said, honestly, it could work either way. I feel this way, but if you feel really strongly, I don't think it hurts.
Okay.
So I had pretty strong say. Where I think I got some of the most pushback was actually on like sort of the copy editing and formatting stuff, because I did some things that were nothing too crazy, but with like weird characters to symbolize like an untranslated alien language, or the way I wanted something to appear on the page, specifically to evoke some kind of, image. Just a few times, like words on a screen or something like that. Like it highlighted, like how do you highlight on a black and white page or represent that? But for the most part, they were pretty great, and they were pretty good about letting me steer the ship. Again, I say the book is PG-13 action movie violence and a lot of 4-letter potty mouth humor, and that's about it. Nothing too egregious.
Okay, so sorry, you said there were 3 stages. I think we just
the copy,
yeah.
and this the last one is really quick. It's just basically kind of formatting and copy. Like, how is this actually going to look on the page? How is this actually going to look on like a Kindle and an e-reader? And just kind of going through and making sure that I like the way it visually looks.
So did you have like a lot of control over things like margins and stuff like that, or
No, not really. Not like the margin. Just in general, just kind of going through and making sure that there wasn't anything when they were moving it around that screwed up spacing. Because I'll do a lot of times. I'll do line breaks, or I'll do a new paragraph when a lot of people might not. But I do that very specifically for like pacing purposes. Because ideally, it's a comedy. It's supposed to be funny. I like writing funny, and so much of that is pacing and the timing.
Yeah.
So I try really hard when I'm writing if I have a joke or something I'm putting in there, I'm really conscious of how I structure that on the page. And because of like reading speed, I want you to hit this beat, this beat, this beat. Laugh. Ideally, hopefully,
specific time,
laugh on that third one. Whereas I feel like it's different if it's all on one paragraph and you're just reading. It's not. You don't have that kind of timing. So, but
right, it all flows together too quickly.
Yeah. And then while that's going on too, you do the graphic design, which is pretty cool. They pair you up. Mine was pretty streamlined. I had a nice call with a gentleman who was just on the phone with him. I was pretty open to suggestion. My only thing I basically said eye-catching. The salesman didn't.
Okay.
I said, make it eye-catching. The cover. And then it was really neat. He did like 5 different designs, and then I pick one of those, and then he does 7 varieties of that one design, different color schemes,
Wow.
slightly, very slight variations. And
Yeah.
I picked. Luckily, I mean, it was for me. I guess some people might have, or maybe I'm just really easy to please. I was like that one, and then he did the variations of like that one. Good, perfect, great.
That's so cool. Mm-hmm. That's so cool. That's a dream of mine to have somebody do artwork for me like that, where it's like, hey, this is a variation of the theme that you just picked. Like, I'll spend hours. Like, I just started video or game streaming, and I spend hours in OBS, like, just looking at all the different themes and the variations. I'm like, oh, I want that one, not that one, I want that one, no, that one, but that one with this one would be perfect.
Yeah.
And then I just went with a basic one.
You'll get there.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have any?
It's a process.
Any listeners who are graphic designers? Hit them up.
Yeah, we do actually.
Yeah,
we have a couple. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I need to get them.
Reach out to Ben
and working on that.
Listener.
That's right.
Hook them up.
Hook me up
Get
right
that
now.
That sweet Twitch banner.
Yeah.
All right, so you edited it to a format or to a content that you like. It's been proofread. It's been formatted for all the different versions, and then it gets sent off to the publisher. What was the experience like once the book was completely done and like going off to be printed? Like, did they have you do stuff? I know you've done appearances to try to promote it. Like,
yeah.
What was that sort of like that part of the book making process like?
So that was it was kind of a combination of, because it's not like they have resources, but it's not, a lot. So if people aren't familiar with Inkshares, they're kind of moving into more of a traditional model, but they have this contest, and they have a couple contests like this, but they also have a format where you can go in, and it's basically like Kickstarter for publishing, where if you get enough pre-orders, they'll help publish your book, because basically what you're doing is delivering kind of the base level cost for them. But they also have this other wing, which is kind of more of a traditional model that they're building out. That being said, it's not like, I'm a big name or I'm well known or it's some major huge publishing house. So they have resources, network, and distribution. As far as events, it was kind of a combination of both of us, where they'd worked. There was a couple I set up, a couple they set up. And they asked where did I want to go or where could I get myself. I'm originally from Chicago. I live in Cincinnati now, so I did signings in both cities. I did some Barnes and Nobles and some independents in both cities. I did one down in Atlanta because I actually was nominated for a Dragon Award at Dragon Con in 2017. Wow. So we did me and actually a couple other authors from the same publisher. We did a group book signing down at a Barnes and Noble down there, which was fun.
That's cool.
Cool. Well, let's see. So then I guess the next thing that to sort of bring up in terms of like the process of all these different steps is then Audible. You mentioned sort of the Audible's the format I listen to it on, for example. Mm-hmm. Did you have any say in that production? I mean, like I know that they get actors and they have their like mm-hmm. directors who sort of like control the flow of that. But did you have a say, did they just sort of do it and then tell you like, what do you think?
I didn't, and it's one of those things where I wonder if that was because I just was so caught up in everything else. I didn't think to reach out and say, hey, can I? For me, because Sci-Fi, you make up a lot of words, right? So. Mm-hmm, I think he did amazing, guys. Nick Dukowski, I think he did a really good job. I was really happy with what he did. But once in a while there'd be a word and it's so minute, it doesn't matter. Who cares? What I had envisioned it sounding one way. He said, but it doesn't. It's really not a big deal. But I honestly don't know if they would have taken.
Although there was a point in the. There was a point in the book where he definitely was so caught up in the flow of the sort of like gibberish words that you had created that there was just a totally normal word that he just read like an alien, which was compass. He comp ass, and like then went back to like gibberish words, yeah. And I was like, oh,
nailed it.
Didn't shift gears on that one.
I really like what he did and this was I think just all him. He because there's different alien races. He basically assigned accents to each of them. So there was like one race that he basically made all of them have an Irish accent, and one that he gave all like a Russian accent to, and that was just him. He just kind of, and they all kind of fit, I thought, for what I was going with the character. Like there's one race who makes up a huge population of the law enforcement. That was the one he decided should all have an Irish accent. I was like, yeah, that
works. It worked.
That's great.
Yeah. For some reason, like this wasn't really that kind of accent, but with Nakana Bin Binbo, who is probably my favorite character in the book, and
What did you just
totally
call him?
mispronounced it. I've actually never looked at the word, so I'm
Oh,
going
that's
off of
right, because you've only Banakana.
Banakana, who is a character I really loved in the book, and like definitely holds up as a character I like just in fiction now. He made me think of this sort of like turn of the century like muscle man with like a big mustache. Like and like then when other characters from that race showed up, like they sort of still had that affect, but were like, this one's a scummier version of that, and like this one's like a more nebbish version of that, but it still like felt like giant bodybuilder who should be talking like
Yeah, no,
it was fun.
Yeah, he did. I was really happy with. That was one of the ones I was the most happy with how he did with him. Yeah,
That's cool. So once the book is published, like what kind of doors have opened up for you as opportunities and stuff like that? Like obviously you're doing cons and panels and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I'd say it's if it's like some big names in the industry. If you guys know John Scalzi, he's written are you familiar with that name at all? Author?
No, I'm not.
No.
Sorry.
I want to say yeah, but
I would be honest here.
I was like, no.
He's like if you're hardcore sci-fi like book readers, like novels, book readers.
Yeah.
He's definitely sort of royalty in that regard.
Okay.
And so let's say there's these really big name people who are and their books are getting adapted. Like for example, the guys who write the books that were the inspiration for The Expanse, that show on Sci-Fi. Mm-hmm. That's who I lost to for the Dragon Award last year. So it's like, but I said like if people on that level are having a party, I'm like hanging at the open window, and like they brought me and like I just kind of leaning on the windowsill, and like they brought me like a tray of hors d'oeuvres, and like they'll talk to me, but I still gotta stay. But that being said, no, it's been good. It's been great in the sense of I've connected with a ton of really awesome, kind of people. I'd say same level, like you up and coming. You've got a good core dedicated following. From what I understand, what you guys are doing, you've got a pretty solid following. You're growing it. You're seeing positive growth going forward. I've got, as far as like new work coming out, my sequel is almost done. I wrote a script for this YouTube channel. It's going to be a sketch. They're going to film it. It's not filming it till next like February or something. So that'll be fun. I have a short story that's getting published in an anthology next year.
Wow.
I'll probably do some more things with like Geekly, because I've become over the years kind of friends with connected with those guys, like Casey. I don't know if Ben and Addy, or if you're familiar with the Geekly universe.
Yeah.
With like Demar, Thrifty Nerd, and that's because I did the did the writers panel with them. But it's at least there's definitely it's going. It's been great in meeting and connecting, and I call it my creative allies, people that are on their way up as well. So
I'm glad you said that, because I want to talk about that for a little bit, because like one of the things that we're doing with this podcast is like we're kind of creating a community of other podcasters and other content creators and stuff like that, and like I feel like the more we do it, the better. It helps. Like it kind of helps those highs and lows a little bit, especially the lows, when you have other people in the community that are like, oh no, I'm doing stuff too, and things are good and it's okay. Mm-hmm. Like how important is it to you to have like that community of other creators, other authors who are like there to encourage you and help you and guide you?
It's crucial. I think it's actually a requirement if you're going to try and do this. If you're going to try and whatever it is, if you're going to create something and you want it to be seen by a lot of people, or you want to get to a point where I think most people get into it because they don't even want to make like Stephen King, J.K. Rowling money. They just want to make enough to live, but get paid to do that full time, the thing that they love, whether it's podcasting or writing or art. I think it is critical that and I hate the word networking, because that has like a cheesy business like connotation. Yeah. But really that and organically, I think like an organic, like meeting with people who you really gel with, who you're on the same wavelength, and just building out, and there's different pockets of communities. Like you're building your own community, but you can connect with other communities and you can kind of cross pollinate. That group, that YouTube, it's called Laugh-Stash TV. They're a great group of people. They're out west. They have a YouTube channel. They do a podcast. It's kind of similar to Another Pass. They watch old movies they haven't seen in a very long time, see if they're still any good. That whole thing. They have their pod, and it's that cross pollinating where you may pick up fans because you help you go on their content, and they may pick up fans with you because you shout them out on your own content. And I think that is, like I said, cannot be underestimated how important it is for building your own following, and and you never know what doors might be open to you then.
So I guess if we could shift gears to sort of the actual story itself, since I have some questions about space tripping. So you said that. So you said you gave the impetus for how you started sort of the scene of it all with like the drunk alien, and then that you were sending. So the space opera contest, that you had already written the book at that point, right?
Yeah, it was done. Mm-hmm.
So what were kind of your influences on it? I mean, like there's definitely a lot of homages to sort of like the. It felt very Douglas Adams to me, but like there's some sort of Star Wars stuff kind of going on there.
Yeah.
There's some things that have become very tropes, and so like what were the choices that you made with that? Like what was really influencing you there?
I think anybody who reads it won't take very long to realize I'm a fan, of course, like of Hitchhikers, because of course I am.
If you're not a fan of that book,
because I'm just a basic sci-fi bro.
Well, there's some very overt Firefly references in there.
There's definitely,
including the main character demanding that people call him Mal at one point.
I'd say definitely, as far as really, like you said, overt references, Hitchhikers, Star Wars, Firefly. Maybe not overt in the actual, book itself, but just what's influenced me. I was still a massive Terry Pratchett fan. The Discworld series is so great, and that was one of those first ones I was reading. I said, "Oh, you can kind of color outside the lines with writing a little bit and get weird, and it can be really great and fun." And I really enjoyed that. I would say I just love like fun adventures with characters. That book is really, and part of what drove that along is that book is definitely more character driven, where I had very, very few plot points in mind where I wanted to get to, and it was more of, here's the situation, what would these characters do in this situation, what are the consequences of those decisions and actions, rinse and repeat. So here's the situation, they react this way, because they react this way, this happens, how do they react to that, and just keep that ball rolling forward until I got to an ending point, basically.
Okay.
Cool. So you didn't have the end in mind. You were just
not this one. No. So this has been different. The sequel, because I definitely had a much more structured map this time around.
Yeah.
So but I wanted to have the same vibe to it. I want it to be different, but familiar but different at the same time. I'm definitely not rinsing and repeating with this book. The sequel, I'm not just I'm trying to do something a little bit different, but keeping some of the things that people seem to like about it, and I like. I want to please myself with it, and then because I'm the one who's putting all the work into it, and but I like that because I really like character driven things a lot. I think it rings true. More so, where if something is too plot driven, it feels if you're not careful, it's really obvious that, that character just did that because the plot needed it.
Right, right, yeah.
Or
that character survived because of plot armor or whatever.
Yeah. Or like the decisions they make. I'm really big on, I hate when it's, there's no reason why that character would react the way it would. It's just you needed them to react. When everything they've said or done makes you think it's X, but they're going to do Y because the plot needs it.
Yeah.
Or you have characters like flip-flopping roles and things like that. But
yeah.
And it's hard. It's hard to do that. To create multiple three-dimensional human beings, the minority, alien, people or persons of extraterrestrial, characters. But yeah, that was also interesting. Just writing a book where there's only one Earth person in the whole book, and everyone else is an alien. And yeah, it's fun. It's hard work, but it's fun at the same time.
Do you find? I know you have a D20, a Dungeons and Dragons D20 podcast that you're doing. Plug it real quick. What's the name of it?
That is called For Whom the Dice Roll.
That's a great name. That's brilliant. That's so good. Do you find like playing D&D like helped your artist voice, like helped you as an author, and like creating these different characters?
I think definitely with character I have an addiction to creating D&D characters or the concepts for D that I think would be funny to play on different. Yeah. I've got my poor DM Thomas. He's just long suffering because I'm always just sending him, and it will be things just like taking. It'll just be this character in D&D. Imagine this character, maybe an existing character from a movie or a show, but in a D&D world, basically. And I'll play with the voice or else their affectations. And then he just will roll his eyes and be like, "That's a terrible idea." I would be like, or I'll be like, "No, that works." I'll be like, I cannot handle more than one episode of that. So they'd have to, if you want to play them, they'd have to die at the end of that episode because I couldn't. But no, and yes,
you'd be like your show's Mike Bachman.
Yeah, that's funny you should add because I had a character in this first arc, and then he seems to be real well liked, but kind of had to leave him off. We're going to season 2 with a new mostly a new cast except for me and the DM. Going to be having a couple of new characters in that for a little bit, kind of burn through some of them to kind of cleanse the palate. But it is a lot of fun. And it's nice to, I don't know, I enjoy it a lot because I just show up and play. And that's Thomas, our DM. He does he's a great Twitter follow too. He's at the Nerdly King. I'm gonna plug him. At the Nerdly King. He was with us, Case. We got we met at late night pizza after a show. Yeah. after drinking and stuff at GeekyCon, late night pizza.
You guys are great. Like, I didn't know anyone when I went to that convention, and you both were both so nice and like hung out with me like as like a pity friend.
No, man. Do you know what's great though is that's what drew me to that community too, and I'm not even professionally affiliated, but GeekyCon, it's a really good community, a really good group of people, and like that you can just show up by yourself and you'll make friends.
I'll find somebody.
And people are really great about that.
Yeah, Geekly Inc., Drunks and Dragons, Cast of Thrones, Sayer, is that still running?
Yeah, it is. They're still going.
And then Random Encounters.
They got so many now.
At this point, there's a ton.
Yeah. Well, they just destroyed Kickstarter. I don't know if you saw. They have a card game coming out, and they like quadrupled their Kickstarter goal.
Wow.
Yeah, they hit the initial funding goal in 3.5 hours, and now
wow. Yeah, they've been crushing it.
That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. I love to see when people are successful in the community and other people helping each other out. That's incredible.
You want to see people whose content you enjoy, but also are, by all accounts, genuinely good people.
Yeah. That's the best. That's the best part of it. I love seeing that. So let's talk a little Star Wars, man. Let's shift gears and get into Star Wars.
That's what it's supposed to be about, right?
I wanted you to get all the book stuff. I want everybody to go out and buy the book and check you out and everything.
Buy my book.
Buy the book. Get it on Audible as well.
That's right.
Every format possible. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So I'll just do that quick rundown. It is every form. Paperback, ebook, Audible. For the physical copy, Barnes & Noble carries it. If or your indie bookstore, if they don't have it, their distributor would have it. You can request it. I'm off. If you want to support your local indie store, they can get it, or you can go straight through Amazon.
Awesome.
I don't care how you get it, as long as you get it.
Just get it. Yeah, it makes great stocking stuffers.
And then you can find me, reach out, and I'll come to conventions I'm at. I'll sign it. And I'll give you a free koozie. I got Space Trip and koozies.
Oh, all right.
It's on brand. It's about drunk aliens. So
I like it. I like it. That's great. That's synergy right there.
Yeah. But enough of that. Let's talk Star Wars.
The action figures are coming soon.
Yeah.
let's talk a little Star Wars. When was the first? This is Addy's favorite question. I'm going to steal it from him.
I know, right? Yeah. I just realized you're stealing it from me. It's like, oh, come on, man.
All right,
you go. You go. You already started.
All right.
Complete the theft.
How did you get introduced to Star Wars? For me, it was the very first movie I saw in the movie theaters when I was a little kid. What was your introduction into the Star Wars universe?
So it's funny. It's one of those things that it just seemed like it was always there, and I always was aware of it. I honestly could not tell you. I just remember. I just have you have being little and you have vague memories of seeing it. I didn't see. So I was born in '84, so they were out. They were out at that point. But so it was home video. You see them all. But I want to say though, the first one I saw was actually Return of the Jedi, and then I went back. Like my dad put it on, and that's could be misremembering, but it just seemed like something from very early was always just I was aware of, and it was there. And then I remember again being reintroduced to when they did the '90s special edition release.
Everybody's favorite versions.
Yeah.
It's a soft spot for me because I actually saw that in theaters.
See, I saw those two. Yeah, that was my opportunity to see him in theaters, though. So my dad took me to those, but dewbacks. Because of course, dude, I heard it's a joke I've heard is that people say it's kind of become like a running gag where if you're just unnecessarily throwing something in there, just just put some dewbacks in it.
That's great.
Every scene's just so dense.
You know what the scene needs? Dewbacks.
Yeah. I'll say it to myself too if I'm writing a scene. I'm looking at and trying to cram too much into it, or too many jokes that I think are funny and maybe aren't that funny. Or I'm just like, I'm dewbacking it. Let's take it.
I'm going to use that from now.
Right? That's a thing now. That is definitely a thing.
So then it's just from there. What's funny is I don't know. I was at these weird ages for all of this when they came out, because things like. Now I look back at the prequels and realize there's stuff, and I can say this. I'm not just kind of riding the hate wave on that. I did recently watch them within the last year, and I was like, there's some things I like here. There's some things that are pretty rough. A lot of the CG, especially in Phantom Menace, does not hold up. I feel like
no.
But in some and Anakin's kind of whiny. A lot of the stuff is justified. Yeah, I'm a very forgiving fan. I try to be,
I love that. Yeah,
but and I liked them at the time though. When they came out, I was in junior high and high school when those were coming out, and I remember, for example, with Attack of the Clones, I remember having my mind blown with the Yoda lightsaber fight and thinking. Regardless of whether that actually makes sense within canon or not, the fact that he's just whipping around and kicking ass with a lightsaber was like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
But so it's always just kind of been there in the background, and I'm really excited because when Case had reached out and he had to ask me to be on the show, I started listening to. I basically have listened to every episode since Case invited me on the show. The one I went back for was Case's and I'm glad I did, was your Heather Antos interview, and that was great. Yeah. I really enjoyed that, and I've actually she's based on that interview. I follow her on Twitter now too, and she's really funny.
She's a legend. Yeah,
but going back and I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought, but I got it now. What I appreciate is that you're liking what they're doing, because I like what they're doing, and sometimes I feel like on an island. I really, The Last Jedi is in one I like every time. I like it more. Yeah. The more I see, every time I've seen it, I like it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And
that's good to hear.
That's reassuring to hear, John. The lonely feeling for that is because I have a friend I'm so close to at work.
Yeah.
Going into Last Jedi, I remember being excited about it, and we were talking about the trailers and micro analyzing stuff. And I look back now and I'm like, what trailers were you watching? What did you expect to happen in this movie?
Yeah.
And that you're so disappointed about it. But yeah, it's a weird spot to be in right now with Star Wars.
It's kind of one of those things where you're just some people you're never going to please, because what was the criticism of Force Awakens was that it was just kind of a repaint of A New Hope.
Yep.
And then Last Jedi tries something really different. That was really different. And then people are, complaining about that because it was too weird. It was different in that dumb petition to remake it. Like, that was so laughable.
Did that ever get funded? Did we ever follow up?
I don't know, but we did. We did
did
a
look.
live.
They said they
tried to donate.
Yeah.
They claimed they had the funding. They had like
right, 'cause it was all
$250
IOUs, like,
million.
Yeah. It's like, oh, yeah, I'll give you $10 million.
They just pledged like $1 million. Like there was nothing to control it.
But no, I love when something tries different. Just like let's make a whole movie. It's basically a chase scene in space.
Yeah,
basically.
Exactly. Yeah, they did some really creative things. They went on a limb on a lot of stuff, and they also didn't go so far that it was unfamiliar either, in my opinion.
No, my mind was blown with like some of the backlash, and I guess a lot of that was kind of amplified by it wasn't as bad as it seemed because of the dreaded Twitter bot. But the fact that I walked out of it, I was like, I liked that a lot, and then I watched it again. I've watched it 3 times now, and like I said, I like it a little better every time where I see it.
Yeah, there's a lot to mine from that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, which is encouraging and makes me even more excited for 9. I really hope that they, that the powers that be don't decide to respond to some of the louder voices in the community and decide to like, hey, let's course correct to some of these guys.
Overcorrection happens plenty with like some of these big franchises, and I am afraid of that one.
Yeah.
Because
especially with JJ holding it,
because I was a little harsh on Force Awakens, but loved Last Jedi, and I mean I've been well documented on the show going off on that tear. But like I just thought it was too safe, and it didn't interest me enough. And Last Jedi was so fresh, in a lot of like the key ways that I really needed for the franchise.
You're gonna find out. You'll find out how much he tries to go back. Where if like the climax of the next one is, like Rey and Finn fighting on a jungle planet with adorable little beetles helping them out. It's like they're totally different.
That's so funny.
It's totally different. Totally different than
Exoskeletons.
They're arachnids. They're not. Yeah. They're not.
And yet they're somehow
bears.
Adorable.
Yeah. They're totally
Buy
different.
the toy now. That's so funny because the Ewok debate flared up again for Addy and I. Because I'm a full-on Ewok hater.
And I love them.
And
I stand by them.
So my opinion on the Ewoks is when I first watched Jedi, I loved them as a kid.
Of course.
Now I don't hate. I try not to hate anything. It takes too much energy. But I look at them now. I look at it now, just kind of like it's kind of dumb.
Pat, you and I are the same age. Were you also subjected to the Ewoks cartoon?
Yeah, I'm aware of it. I don't have any crazy. I think what's the bigger Ewok abomination that's in my brain are the those other movies they made.
Caravan of Courage,
Wicket, and there was the one where it was like a family was trapped in like a cage or some giant monster was going to eat them or something like that.
Yep. Yeah.
Those were atrocious. Those were so bad.
Yeah, that was
like everybody always makes fun of the Christmas special.
Yeah,
but some of those Ewok movies were those, just as awful.
Did Lucas? Did he have a hand in those at all? I don't know. Like,
I feel like he has to, right?
I feel
he definitely okayed them.
I feel like if he didn't have a hand in them, he got paid in like a bag of cocaine. Like,
I'm just gonna be away for a little bit, guys.
I mean, I will say this was sort of a low point for Lucas when those came out.
Yeah.
So I could see him being like, "Oh, it'll help pay off this like giant investment that I am burning all this money on."
To be fair,
Skywalker
that
Ranch.
was the low point so far. At that point, cause
that's true. He could always go lower.
Jar Jar. Have you seen that? There was like a documentary about making a Phantom Menace, and he thought he was like convinced that Jar
Yeah.
Jar was like the thing, was going to be the funniest, most popular character ever.
Well, everyone was telling him that, Lucas and I mean, it just feels so bad for.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's
guy.
the whole scene with him and Spielberg where it's like, it's gonna be great, it's gonna be great, it's gonna be great, it's gonna be great. They just keep repeating it to each other.
like they're trying. It feels more like they're trying to talk each other into it.
Trying to convince each
It's gonna be okay, buddy. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Is what it ends up like playing.
But that's
as.
what it's like when you're a millionaire.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, when you have that much power.
or rather a billionaire as Lucas is.
Yeah.
Where it's just like there's never going to be bad. It's
You're
not like
still a
you're-
billionaire.
It's never going to be you're going to be okay, man. You're going to be great.
Yeah. Just
Even
how
when this
great.
bombs, you're still gonna have $1 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's levels to the game, right?
I mean, you see it time and time again, and I hope that'd be awesome if I ever got that big and successful where I'm helping write and make these massive productions. But B, I really hope that luckily I married someone who is really good at keeping me in check and will not stand for my shit for one moment. So I'll keep her around because that'll be my saving grace. But yeah, you get to that point where everyone just tells you yes, and
yes,
I've definitely had some ideas that are fucking atrocious. So she was like, no, that's not good. That's just bad. But no, so but you see it always. You see it across all mediums, I feel like. Anything creative, not even just creative in general, but you just see it across the board where people, if you get too big and you don't have that person or that group of people that are willing or in a position where they feel comfortable putting you in check or are willing to, that's how you get midichlorians.
Yeah, because his explanation sounded really smart to the people who were in the room with him. And it's like, well, how like mitochondria are really interesting. Like, people don't understand them fully, and you can trace them back to the first woman. Like I want to do that, but with the Force.
And that goes right to the over-explaining. So prequels are okay, and I'm not saying not just the Star Wars prequels. The concept of a prequel in general is okay. What sometimes annoys me is when they try to explain in this one adventure every little aspect of what makes this character who they are is explained, and that rings kind of hollow to me. It's happened twice now too, because I just told you guys I was watching Solo right when the call started before.
I was about to say, because you said you hadn't finished it yet.
I wanted to ask,
but there's a lot.
moment.
But even early on, there's a ton of stuff that's like little. There's so much of it. It's almost too much, and it's the same with something similar. Another Harrison Ford character. I love the original 3 Indiana Jones movies. I treasure them,
of course.
But like Last Crusade, that starts with him as a kid, as like a Boy Scout or something, and then it's literally all his signifying traits: the scar on his chin, his hat, his whip, his fear of snakes, all happen within a 5-minute span in this one.
Yeah.
It's like that's not how building a human
Life
personality works. Like,
Right.
Yeah. Thinking of things that kind of like took this, like Lord of the Rings, then doing Hobbit sort of as a prequel. Like the stuff they added are things generally I didn't like because it over-explained stuff in Lord of the Rings.
Well, those were in general just rough, and that again, I say that as someone who is I am a self-professed easy fan to please. If I like something, I will give you a lot of leeway. But yeah, those were not.
Yeah,
those were not enjoyable.
Yeah, it's almost like you could edit the Hobbit movies down into a good movie because they just kept adding too much. Maybe 2 movies.
I think
someone should
someone
probably
did
take another
that.
pass at that.
Haven't we already?
I think someone did that. I'm trying to think who. I thought I heard
Somebody actually went on.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
did hear
people have done
someone.
that edit.
There's been a
Yeah.
couple edits already.
There's a lot of people that thought that would
Yeah.
be a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
apparently, what's his name? Topher Grace, the actor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the Phantom Edit.
Yeah.
No, he didn't do the Phantom Edit. He did. It was 2 and 3 roughly as one movie.
Yeah, he Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. He edited them into one movie, and he did like a private screening. It's supposedly really good.
Yeah, I've tried to do a similar cut of those movies because, like, are you familiar with the Machete Order?
No.
So the Machete Order is if you watch Star Wars Episode 4, Episode 5, then 2, 3, and then 6. Where the idea is that 2 and 3 become an extended flashback after Luke finds out that Vader is his father.
Okay.
And it works really well, except for 2 is kind of a slog still. You miss out some fun stuff from Phantom Menace, even though it's sort of
Non-necessary.
Yeah,
So
none
you
of
just
it's
pretend that
necessary.
didn't happen.
yeah,
Kind of.
Basically, like, oh, it happened, but like the Jake Lloyd stuff is kind of weird. like if it just starts with Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman being like, "Oh, you've grown up so much, so have you? I mean, more beautiful." At least you're just imagining them both being younger, as opposed to like
instead of the creepiness of of the Anakin Padme relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And it works pretty well, and like it adds weight to Return of the Jedi. So like but the problem is it's still a lot of movie, and it's not. It's still, there's some problems, and you could cut out a lot of it. Like,
and I think now in a world where we have the Clone Wars cartoons, which I love.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot that exists in that you do kind of need Phantom Menace as well, because I mean they did some great stuff with Maul in that series, and if you leave Maul out completely, as much as he didn't fulfill his potential in Phantom Menace, we got some great stuff with him in the extended universe.
That was I think another one that was a huge waste. As you have this really cool villain that is just very intimidating, just has a great look to him, and he's very athletic, and he's just it's just very powerful. And you go from that to now, who is a treasure? Christopher Lee is a treasure, but you go to an old man named Count Dooku.
It does feel a little bit of a step back, but Star Wars has a long tradition of having really cool looking characters that meet disappointing deaths. You have Maul, you have Boba Fett, and now you have Phasma. Like it's a tradition at this point.
Got at least one per trilogy.
Yes, exactly. Where everybody's like, this character's
yeah. So that was something that was always interesting to me, because I remember my dad being like, "Oh yeah, Boba Fett's the man," and then I would I watch him, and I was like, "But he doesn't do anything."
He dies in the most embarrassing way ever.
Yeah. Well, I guess they threw out the canon of the books, but technically he didn't die down there. He got rescued from the Sarlacc pit. That was a book.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a guy who social networked really well so that everyone believes his hype.
Yeah, he has some cool moments in Clone Wars and stuff like that. I'm hoping we get to see some more of him.
Is that show worth a dive? How much?
My God!
Is it?
I preach the gospel of the Clone Wars.
What are we looking at season episode? Like, is that a pretty big task I'm taking on?
Yeah. It's 6 seasons?
I thought it was 7.
6 or 7 seasons. It's a lot.
Yeah. The movie is a little rough.
Yeah.
That's what launched it, and I remember watching that, and I wasn't sure because you have the idea of a Padawan for Anakin being as something that's a little weird already to kind of wrap your head around.
Yeah,
and her personality at first was a little like a bit grating.
Super grating.
But you give it a little bit of time, there's a good journey for that character and the characters around it. They do a great job of sort of fleshing out sort of the bigger picture of the Republic. And because they're free to do a lot more stories, they can cover a lot of different ground and a lot of different characters. And Anakin isn't annoying at all in that series.
Yeah, he's pretty badass.
Obi-Wan's great as always. Even some of the political stuff is actually pretty good in that series, which is really weird to say, especially after the prequels, because votes for no confidence don't really make interesting story,
Well, it doesn't make for great movie story. It makes good serialized TV story.
Right.
You know what I mean? So just by the nature of a different type of storytelling and having the time to expand out on those things versus trying to cram it all into an hour and a half really works. It works really, really well.
And what I also really like is there's a variety of storytelling. Like you get your kaiju stories, but then you also get your your westerns, and then you get your noir type of investigative stories, which I think that's one of the things that I've always loved about Star Wars is just the variety of storytelling in that world and the variety of influences. And you do get your Kurosawa. You pretty much get a ripoff of the Seven Samurai as one episode, and which is kind of cool that you're able to do those kind of stories there.
That is good to hear. That's one of my favorite things in media. I really love in whether it's sci-fi or superhero movies. Some of my favorite iterations are things where they're not making a good example of this is one of the ones that's not, I feel like, talked about as much, is I really love from like the Marvel, the MCU. I really love Captain America: Winter Soldier. Mm-hmm. And I think part of what makes that really great is it's not insert superhero movie. It's a spy thriller that happens to take place in a superhero world.
Yeah.
And the same thing with like what they're doing with the Star Wars unit. I think they went a little too hard, too fast, maybe. And I hope they still do. I would love to see that. I would love to see, because you have this massive universe. Literally, it's a universe with all these different cities, and I would love to see. And I kind of did with Solo. Solo. It's like it's a heist movie, but it's essentially it's a heist movie that happens to take place in the Star Wars universe. Or same with Rogue One. It's kind of like it's a heist movie, but get maybe even more smaller scale. I think would be really interesting to see, where it's not the fate of the galaxy or the fate of the planets at this hand. It's just the fate of this character that you're looking for.
Yeah, not even the fate of the rebellion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No,
just
or like
a Boba Fett movie, but it could be a heist movie.
Right.
Just a bounty.
No, or you have like I think we're getting that because you have the new show The Mandalorian that Jon Favreau's creating, and I'm hoping that we're going to see like a smaller, stripped down version of the universe at that point, because that would be great. I completely agree, and we've said it plenty of times on this podcast that Star Wars is going to, in order to continue to tell Star Wars stories, they're going to have to get off of the beaten path of the hero's journey that we're so familiar with. Of a Jedi saving the universe.
And I'm like years away from this, but I'm writing a sequel. It's almost done with Space Tripping, a sequel to that. I have one more after that in mind for this main group, but one of these characters, they're not in the first one they're introduced. I have an idea for a story that's essentially a like old-timey Maltese Falcon neo-noir that takes place in a sci-fi world, and I've even toyed with the idea of it taking place in one city, where you don't even leave one city. It's a big city, but at the same time, because sci-fi is so, you're always going, and I'm guilty of it too in my books. Cool, exotic, imaginative locale. All right, plot happens. Now we have to go to this other cool, exotic, imaginative alien locale. Plot happens, and you do that like 4 times, and there's your movie and your set pieces. But I would love to try doing that on a smaller story in a smaller setting within this massive world that's been built. Yeah. And a really good, I had the idea and I had the plot mapped out, so I'm not, but a person, I'm going to plug another author, someone who does that, who did a really good job of that is, his name is Sam Sykes, and he's a fantasy author, and he has a trilogy. Now the books 2 and 3, take you out in the world a little more and get a little more traditional fantasy epic. But book 1 of the series is called The City Stained Red, and it's a fantasy book. It takes place the entire book takes place in a single city.
That's brilliant.
So it's not some long hero's journey thing where you're going across. It's the entire book takes place in one city, and I like that.
And you can still do the hero's journey. You just don't have to necessarily have like a dozen locales, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah, because contemporary fiction can do that all the time. You can do like, New York is the setting for how many stories without ever even going to a different borough outside Manhattan. Right. So like, it makes perfect sense that you would do something like that in these like bigger sci-fi worlds, but like the impulse I think is often to do a very expansive view of the world without really having to like focus on the nitty-gritty details. Like that takes a deeper level of introspection into how the world works.
Yeah.
And it's also probably a little more realistic too. I mean, like just because you can travel to different planets doesn't necessarily mean that it's available. Depending
Space
on the
Metropolis.
universe.
Why would you ever leave Space Metropolis?
It's all right here. Like, why would you leave Coruscant?
Like Space Broadway has all the shows. Why would you like?
Of course, the playwright in the room.
Exactly. Space Broadway. Love to see the neon signs at that place.
Well, the Space Cocktail Revolution is also so centered here in Space Metropolis. And yeah, the rent's pretty high. It's a lot of credits, but
I just need a space Target and a space grocery store. Well, good.
But then you're gonna have to like the space grocery store. We have space bodegas.
Oh no, I'll stick with Space Aldi.
Target, you really are, you kind of need to like be fine with like using Space Uber, and then
now I want Case to write a Space Hamilton.
Write that down. That's good. Oh, that's fantastic. So, are you are you excited about the new Star Wars coming out next year? Are you paying attention to it, or?
I'm excited. I'm as far as paying attention. You can educate me. What's the estimated release time for that?
December.
Same as the
2019?
last couple. Same time of frame.
Yeah.
So what's been actually pretty cool is with those is my wife is not a huge sci-fi fan, but she's seen because my birthday is the day after Christmas.
Oh, okay.
And they've Force Awakens and Jedi both came out right around Christmas, and or they came out in December and they're massive hits, so they stick around through the month. But the last couple of years, I was like, I kind of want to do that because two small kids. Ben, you might be able to relate to this. That's one of those things. There's a lot of things that you still get to do in your life. One of the things that becomes almost impossible is going to a movie in the theater.
Yep.
Because you're basically doubling your costs. Because you got to, I say people. I used to go out to bars and clubs, and I like my cocktail. But side note, I like that you guys have not. I'm only doing this for your benefit. I was waiting for someone to comment that I'm drinking wine straight from a bottle.
Oh, sorry, that's so normal. Like that's
okay.
That's
I'm not that much
behavior for us.
I'm not that much of a savage.
This is a glass of rosé.
I was doing that as a bit. I was waiting for you guys.
Sorry, the three alcoholics
at all.
But that's one thing I try to take. If I have, it's like, hey, what do you want to do? We're gonna go somewhere. But I always say, I used to pay $20 covers to get into a bar. Now I pay like a $50 cover on my own front door just to get out through a babysitter.
That's so true.
But
so true.
But so that's actually now become a thing. So it's the last two, and I actually really appreciate that she's they kind of now have something of a I've really enjoyed the two movies, and they now have a thing. It's something that we can do together, and hopefully she's down for the next one. She's like, she picks up the little bits here or there. What's going on? It helps it helps that Star Wars is pretty straightforward on based on the way this person they look and dress. It's pretty obvious. Angsty Kylo Ren is the bad guy. She's like, no. So yeah, so it's the same time frame. Is it this coming or the next? It's 2019.
Next year,
2019.
2019.
Yeah. So yeah, that'll be awesome. But
awesome.
Going back as far as I'm not a huge preview guy because I feel like too much these days they spoil stuff, and
they really do.
I know what I'm going to be interested.
I don't know these days a fascinating thing is going back to previews of yesteryear. Over the weekend, I was catching up on Rocky movies because I did an episode of my show on Rocky Balboa, and I watched the trailer for Rocky 4, and it is the entire movie.
Really?
Yeah, and there are plenty of other trailers like that, Escape the Planet of the Apes. They reveal the twist at the end of the movie in the trailer.
Yeah,
really? Not like the break.
Yeah,
into
they
three.
have a narrator and everything.
Yeah, the twist at the end of the movie, and it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Why would you even see this movie?
There was one from 4 years ago. It was some spy thriller with Kevin Costner and one of the Chris's. There's the 5 Chris's that are the action stars these days. And it was they're hunting the Jaguar or some shit like that. And then it's revealed that the young guy's mentor is the Jaguar in the preview.
Right there in the trailer.
Yeah, whatever. I guarantee it's not Jaguar. Someone will. Go ahead. I'm at the Pat Edwards on Twitter. At me. Tell me I'm wrong. But,
dying to know what this movie is now.
No, but I know there was one like that, and I remember kind of doing a double take and said they just kind of. Oh, they just
throw it out there.
Did it? Okay.
Just throw it out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a surprise. No, I do agree with you because I don't know if it's so much movie trailers by design, but I think now we've all come to like recognize film language easily enough.
Yeah.
That it's hard, like it's almost hard for anyone to pull something over on you, you know. Which
Yeah.
I think that's one of those things with like people's expectations in a movie. Which Last Jedi, like I personally I love Iron Man 3, and I know anyone can at me on that one, but that's one of those things where I feel again I'm that lone defender of that movie because everyone felt betrayed by
You got
a surprise.
We literally talked about this
I love
on the
this
show.
too. Yeah.
No, but I mean, again,
Yeah, but like outside of
most
this
people
couch.
are like Iron Man 3 is the worst Marvel movie. Half the time, a lot of people
Yeah.
say that.
Dumb people.
Right? Exactly.
Well, do you count-
I feel there's a more astute crowd right here.
I think people forget there's that Hulk movie, the Ed Norton Hulk movie. that technically counts as part of the MCU. So, but what's funny is I'm not even super spoiler wary. I don't mind it. They don't like. I don't throw my hands up and think it's ruined. It doesn't. You know what I mean? But I also don't seek them out. Funnily enough, because I was listening to the most recent episodes, and I was listening to your Daredevil season 3 when I was only halfway through with the season, and then I hit a point. So I am a big comics fan. However, the old school Daredevil comics did. I was obviously aware the character did miss me, but there's a reveal about Sister Maggie that I did not know that.
Should I take off my headphones?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. All right, I got that one.
Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't say it.
I mean, technically, we did say spoilers.
No. I know you did. And I was like, yeah, whatever. It's gonna be nothing that crazy is gonna happen. And then I was like, maybe I should just hit pause and wait till I come back to this one until I finish the season.
That's so funny. Well, yeah. It happens. It happens. What are you gonna do? Sorry. I know I feel bad about that.
I know.
You guys said it, and I didn't say exactly what it was because people coming into
Because somebody else might.
Right.
Yeah. It's funny because
That's nice courtesy.
people
right
ask
there,
me
yeah.
every once in a while. They're like, "You guys do the whole hey, we're spoilers," or
Yeah.
and does anybody actually need that nowadays? Like, yeah.
You'd
Yeah.
be surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, people get upset about stuff, but that's also like, so what? I don't, when people get really mad about some of them, or people on I was on a podcast recently, and it's like, no, don't say it. I haven't seen the movie. It's like, it came out 6 months ago. I'm like, if you care that much, you would have.
There's got to be a statute of limitations for spoilers.
Yeah, I think so. Speaking of trailers. Did you guys see and I'm just going to bring this up randomly because I'm so excited about Detective Pikachu today. Did you see the new trailer?
I've seen screen grabs. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
God. It looks great.
I have not. I haven't consumed too much media today. I've been recovering. This weekend was my one daughter's 1-year birthday, and tons
oh
of
my
family
goodness!
and
Happy
That's the first
birthday.
bender, right? So,
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks great. And
I love the complete shift in opinion from you, Ben, because you were like, oh, when we heard about this movie, you were just like, oh, this is gonna be awful.
Yeah, because
why would you do this movie? And I was like, yeah, Fight Club with Pokemon.
Well, it did make sense to me. I was like, Ryan Reynolds is gonna play Pikachu. Anybody can say Pika Pika. You really gotta pay Ryan Reynolds for this.
yeah, I feel like the response is the GIF of Ryan Reynolds from Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, where it's just like, but why?
Yes. Exactly. Yeah, it looks great. I'm super excited about it.
So you guys are obviously really, I hope so, really up on what is going on in the Star Wars world.
We're trying.
Yeah.
Is there another the Abrams trilogy? Is there another? Because that Boba movie got scrapped, right? The Boba Fett movie?
Right now, there's been no announcement about another. There's no anthology movies they've announced yet.
Okay.
I think in March next year we'll get an announcement as far as what's next as far as the movies are concerned, because at that point, I'm sure that's when we'll probably get a trailer for Episode 9, because that Star Wars Celebration is the big convention, so we'll get that. And if there's got to be announcements for some movies, because they've. I'm hoping the Rian Johnson new trilogy is still on the table, because that's the one I'm honestly a little bit more excited about than even like Episode 9. I'm excited about because of the it's part of the whole saga, but I like the idea of Rian Johnson doing something that's completely in another time and space in the Star Wars galaxy. And then the Game of Thrones guys have a series of movies that they'll be doing, and then whatever other like
and then there's all the
one-offs.
TV stuff that's happening.
Yeah, but TV right now there's a lot more going on because we've got 2 live action shows on the way, and right now they just started another animated series.
Really?
So
A live action
Yep.
show? Oh, that's intense.
There's 2
what
of them.
networks?
Yeah.
it's going to be on the Disney streaming service.
Oh, sweet. I'm already gonna be buying that because
Of
kids.
course.
Well,
Yeah,
kids. I also married, so I was gonna make a joke. They've been really busy building their own theme park too. So I married into, and I've become a extreme Disney-phile family. Like we're in the vacation club. We go we just went 2 weeks ago. We were down there in Disney World. We're gonna go again in like a couple weeks. We've never been during the holidays.
Nice.
Like we're in that vacation club. We've got a home club there that we always stay at, and yeah, my wife her family is one of those. They've gone like every year her whole life to Disney World.
Nice.
Like that's their thing.
Nice.
And they how they got me hooked on it too is they have like a food and wine festival every fall in Epcot where we just eat and drink a bunch. And in Epcot,
We just go around the world
Yeah.
again and again and again.
We actually-
Each time.
yeah, we actually got married down there. So during that
cool.
that festival, yeah. So, but yeah, what was cool. I snapped some pics. They got that whole in the one park, the Hollywood Studios park. They're building out like this massive Star Wars land, basically, and it's looking good from what I can see. I was in the Toy Story land, trying to like peek over with my phone and stuff, and.
Yeah, I thought I saw a quote from Bob Iger this week that said it's the largest themed area that they've built in
It looks
so far.
Yeah, from what I could tell, like, and
looks
it's high,
huge.
it's up. There's like it's tall. What they're doing, like I said, I was trying to take pictures, trying to put, give my phone to my toddler and like raise her up, like take a picture for daddy.
Take a picture. It's brilliant.
But no, so it's cool, man. I'm looking out for that.
Yeah, it's gonna be there's so much content. I mean,
Yeah.
it's such a good time to be alive as a nerd because you have all the Marvel stuff that's going on, you have
Right.
all the Star Wars stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
Doctor Who.
Maybe one day
wrapping
they'll
up.
get the DC stuff going right.
No,
it's yeah. I just watched I watched Justice League like 2 months ago. It was on HBO or something on HBO Go, and I was like, oh, this is not good.
This is a
Yeah.
miss. This is a miss.
Yeah. Which is, and this is a hot, controversial opinion alert. Yeah, I don't hate Ben Affleck as Batman. As like the
No,
tortured
not at all.
real Batman. Like in Batman vs Superman, I thought there was a good Batman movie underneath all the other stuff in there, like buried in there, like the
Yeah.
old tortured, more like raw, brutal Batman, and like
Good action with Batman. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, for
like he
sure.
actually looked like he could fight.
well, that
Yeah,
like training
it was
montage
rare.
Nice.
where it's not like fancy ninja junk. It's just like the hardcore, like flipping tires and
Just CrossFit.
chains.
Yeah.
just like,
It was a little overly wanky for like Snyder's CrossFit interest, but but that's me as a fat man saying that. So.
but Addy, you're saying so.
God, shut up about your workout routine.
Addy, you're saying Rian Johnson is doing like a whole other trilogy, or because I want to see more
Well,
from him.
Yeah, that was right after Last Jedi. That was announced that
Yeah.
like the things just went so smoothly between him and Lucasfilm that they loved working with him, and he had a pitch for a whole new Star Wars trilogy of brand new characters not connected to anything
Yeah.
we've seen before in a different area of the universe with maybe even at a different time. So, yeah.
I like him because I already said this. He tried something different, which I always respect, and I think
Right.
you can have your opinion if you liked it or not. I think it worked, and I liked it a lot. 2 is he generally so he'll bring that, I think, to that trilogy, right? Like he'll try something different, he'll do something unique with it. 2 is you can tell he cares about the material and that he's doing.
Yeah.
And I loved when I remember seeing like a tweet from him where someone's they're checking out. I think one of the people, the whole Skywalker is like the like a living Force ghost or whatever. At the end there, they try to check him on that, and he busted out. He was just sitting on his shelf, was like the Jedi code or manual or something like that.
Yeah.
Book. And he's like,
Exactly.
let me show you my receipts. Like, it's
Right.
like right here, there it is, right there. And so you can tell, like, the combination of that, where he has he has a legitimate affinity for the source material, and he's willing to get weird with it and get outside the box and do something. I think that combination is great, and I think that applies across the board for any kind of content.
Because I think that's what scares us about the prequels, was that in some ways they were a little too safe on a lot of things, and that, like you talked about, there was no one keeping George in check. Where, I think what we love about the original trilogy, as much as people sometimes focus in on, like, I like these starfighters or lightsaber fights or whatever else that are sort of the more like the trappings of a Star Wars story, but that there was something as bold as The Empire Strikes Back, and taking a chance with a story like that is really more, I think, what challenges us in a certain way. And I think I think Star Wars has been waiting a long time for challenging storytelling. I think sometimes maybe that's happened in extended media, but in the movies it's been a very, very long time since we had that. And I think that's what Ryan. I totally agree with you. I agree that Rian Johnson seems to have not just a love, but a willingness to really take big chances. In this story. So I sure hope he's not done with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll find out in spring.
Yeah, exactly.
That's when we'll know for sure. So, cool. Thank you, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This was awesome.
Yeah, you got a listener in me now. I've enjoyed what I've heard so far. I'm sure I'll keep
Thanks,
listening.
man.
And then,
I'm so glad that we were able to make this all work out. I mean, we've been chatting since GeeklyCon was July.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
July.
Oh my God.
You going back?
Yeah, I haven't bought the tickets yet, but I had a lot of fun last time. So it's 95%
Yeah.
on this one. Just gotta make sure I'm not being foolishly wasting my money. Not that it was a waste of money, but that I have a mortgage.
The money that it's going there.
Yeah. No.
Bill's got to get paid.
True that. No. I'm spoiled because it's in Columbus and I live in Cincinnati. It's like an hour and a half away.
It's right
I
there.
just drive
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, I drove there last time
Dang.
and back.
No, thank you.
The way back, though, I was able to burn through the first 10 chapters of your book.
Okay, so that was worth it. That was really
So it was
awesome.
totally worth
Yeah,
it.
totally worth it in that regard.
We recommend everybody do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, thanks so much for coming on. I'm glad that we were able to make the schedule work, and that this has been great hearing your experiences in the publishing world. And I know we have people even amongst the cast of the show currently who are interested in that experience and wanted to hear more about it. So I'm glad that we could hear it and have you come on.
Yeah. I'm gonna definitely check out the Scruffy Nerf Herders too and see, because I like role playing podcasts. I like listening to the different games and stuff. And
that one's a trip.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to talk to you again then after you've heard the Scruffy Nerf
Yeah. I will warn you before you do. The first episode is very long, and then they're not. After that, we figured out how to
and all of those in the beginning. You gotta, it takes you an hour to walk 5 steps
Kinda
as a
figure it
party,
in,
and
yeah.
you gotta figure it out. You listen to the first 2 of ours, like the first
Yeah.
episode. Yeah, it takes us 30 minutes to read a letter to get or something. And that's D&D. I mean, that's like D&D or any tabletop role playing game.
Well, what's the D&D story? It's like the DM discovered the hardest session he ever had was where there was an elevator, and just deciding to go up or down was the entire session of them arguing.
It's also like real life.
And you have to hit me up if you need a one-off weird character.
Oh yeah,
For sure. Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, we'll talk.
Yeah.
Speaking of hitting you up, what is the best way to I know you've mentioned it throughout different parts of the podcast.
Yeah.
But what give the rundown of how people can get a hold of you and the book and everything.
I'd say I'm most active as far as social media. I'm most active on Twitter. I have Facebook and Instagram, and I've had Snapchat and deleted it twice because I just that's the first thing that made me feel old because I was like, I don't get it. But
Wait, so for you, Snapchat was an ephemeral app,
yeah,
not just an ephemeral message.
yeah. But Twitter definitely is what I'm the most active on. I'm probably too active on there. It's kind of an addiction. But I'm at the Pat Edwards, so you can get me there, talk, and make some jokes. If you want to send me a direct email, I have a new website that just launched. It's really pretty straightforward and basic. We're going to add some more things in there. You guys, I'm adding in like a friends of mine, like creative friends of mine corner there. So with links to different, so I have to drop a certain POV link in there maybe.
Cool.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Nice.
But that's thepatedwards.com, and there's a I say that because there's a feature where you can just you can email me directly if you have questions, you want to talk about, what you're doing with your publishing career, your writing, reach out. And like I said, I'm newish. I've got, the one out there I'm going, but it's, if there's any way I can help you folks or whoever's listening, hit me up.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pat. Really appreciate it, man.
And
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
go buy Space
Let's
Tripping.
do it again.
And leave a 5-star review. Actually, if you don't even want to buy it, just go leave a review. You don't have to buy it. Just go leave a review.
We'll make sure we'll post direct links to your book and to your website and all of that and your social media on our website at certainpov.com on the post for this episode.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
And so just to wrap up, don't forget to go to our website for those links and for all of our social media if you want to hit us up as well. Again, that's on our website, certainpov.com. And until next time, stay scruffy, my nerf herder.